Welcome back now. Then our next guest is one of Britain's most high-profile politicians, but away from Westminster. Shadow Energy Secretary Claire Coutinho faced an ordeal no mother should ever have to experience.
After giving birth to her son earlier this year, complications from the birth meant that her baby boy was unable to breathe, while Claire herself was left in a coma fighting for her life.
Well, she's very bravely sharing her story this morning to raise awareness of maternal health, and she joins us alongside her husband, Adam. Good morning to both of you. Thank you for coming in and sharing this story, Claire. I'm used to interviewing you next door and badgering you about policy and all those sort of parts of life that we think are important, but then something like this happens and you realise what is actually important, which is health and family and all those things. Can you take us back to how the two of you met and how little Rafa came into the world?
Wow, so I was 38 and single and an MP and had kind of given up. I thought, you know, marriage, children, probably I'd missed all of that. And then that's when I met Adam.
Yeah, and we dated for a little while. I think because we'd known each other professionally, Claire thought that these were work dinners, so I was trying my absolute best to make it more like a date. And on one of the dates, I put on some candles, I cooked some food, and about halfway through, Claire said, "Oh, is this a date?" And it was sort of more plain sailing from there.
Yeah, very oblivious.
Right.
But yes, and that was where it all started.
And so did you always want a family, and did you realise quite quickly that you guys were going to be together and actually let's get on with this?
Yes, I'd always wanted a family. It was so important to me. And we got to about sort of 5 months down the line, and Adam had a friend who said, actually, it takes 50% of couples 2 years to get pregnant. So we thought, OK, well, we'll start trying. Because I was a bit older, and we were really keen to do it together. And then 2 weeks later, I was pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really quick.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So which is exactly what you wanted. It's a thrill that you're pregnant. And then how was the pregnancy? Did everything go to plan?
So the pregnancy was fine. I was ill in the final month, but apart from that, I was fine. And then towards the end, I was struggling to eat. I thought I had really bad acid reflux, which is something a lot of pregnant women get. So I was drinking tons of Gaviscon and... You know, we thought it was that. So it wasn't great that last month, but broadly we thought we were OK.
But there were no red flags at that stage at all, nothing to be worried about?
No, and looking back at it, I probably was sicker than I realised in that final month.
Right.
But because it was our first child and we hadn't done anything like that before, we didn't know.
No, you just kind of try and get all the advice that you can from friends. You see movies, read books, that's what you do. So then you had a C-section. When Rafa was born, you were standing by ready with the camera and there was not a sound.
Yeah, so I was ready to try and get the shot that I'd seen that friends have of the baby being lifted over the blue curtain and have this magical moment where he was brought to Claire's chest. And actually, the moment he came out, he was blue, he was limp, and he got rushed off. And the anaesthetist said, you know, don't worry, it will only be a minute or so. And we waited 15 very long minutes.
It felt like a very long time.
It must have felt like an eternity to you. What was going through your mind at that point?
Well, we were just worried. You know, like Adam said, we thought we were going to hear the cry, and the doctor said any minute now, and then we just waited.
And do you know why he wasn't crying?
We still don't really know. We think it is something to do with what happened later on.
Right.
But it's still not clear.
OK.
Terrifying, though. So, Adam, you have to stay there, of course, because you've just had major surgery. You can't move. You went with Rafa. He was rushed off to ITU. And trying to communicate with Claire via phone to tell her what was going on, that must have been awful.
Yeah, and I was just really aware that, you know, you kind of see in the movies on TV that there's this magical moment where your family's together for the first time. And I really felt for Claire, because she was on a ward, you know, not able to see Rafa. And kind of every part of me wanted to just get him to her, because she was being so brave, and I just wanted to do my bit to make sure that she could have her moment.
So fortunately, everything was OK, and he got... I mean, obviously, he'd not been breathing for a long time, so there was concerns about complications down the line, but you were able to bring Rafa to Claire, because that must have been very special.
Yeah.
Oh, it was wonderful. So I'd been on the maternity ward and I could hear all these newborns crying and the mums with them.
Claire.
So I just wanted to hold on to my baby. And so it got to 10 p.m. and I was able to see him, and it was heaven. And he was beautiful. He was very, very furry because he was a premature baby. And so he had this extra layer of hair, but he was just stunning.
So at this point, we think, OK, we can all breathe a sigh of relief a little bit and go into that kind of magical bubble. Then what was the turning point for you? When did you then start feeling ill?
So as we thought we were all going home.
Yeah.
And then the next day, early in the evening, I started getting very sick.
And what were the symptoms? How did you feel?
So first I was throwing up, I was ballooning up, and my vision was blurred, and I could sense that my thinking was becoming unclear.
Right.
So at some point we spoke to a doctor and they asked me to count down the months. And I remember saying December. Then after that I said Celembra, Movembra, and I could tell that my thinking was becoming confused.
So all of a sudden then, you got put into an induced coma, is that right, Claire?
So that was a few days later. So we had a few days where they were trying to work out what was happening.
What's wrong with you? Because this is a very rare condition, isn't it? Later they found this out, but this isn't something that happens every day.
No, it's a very, very rare condition. What I ended up having was something called acute fatty liver of pregnancy.
Right.
And it's something where basically when you give birth or around the time you give birth, your body starts shutting down. Right. So I was essentially going into multiple organ failure as the doctors were trying to work out what I had and what was wrong with me.
God, and so Claire gets put into an induced coma, and then, I mean, you've had this extraordinary roller coaster that you think is going to be an amazing moment where you're all together as a family, then you're going to come home as a family, and then suddenly you're not going to come home as a family, and Claire's going to be left in this coma. But then you were told to prepare for the worst as well. It got that bad.
Yeah, I think hearing something like multiple organ failure, which I think might be a fairly, I don't know, standard medical term, but was extraordinarily scary. And I was spending my time running between the specialist unit that Rafa was on, the part of the hospital ICU where Claire was. And to be honest, it was Claire that was giving me the pep talk. She was sort of, we had a holiday that we were really planning to do as a family, and she just kept saying, we're going to make it, we're going to get on that trip.
And the doctors also told you to prepare for the best, but also prepare for the worst too.
It was quite a scary time. We didn't know what was going to happen, and we made sure, for example, that we were looking into getting an emergency marriage, so Adam would have all the parental rights that he might need. We looked into writing a will. We just, you know, were making sure that we were ready for whatever happened.
It's just so horrible, isn't it? I mean, you felt so ill and so poorly. Then you'd got Rafa as well. But I think almost for the person that's not going through it, that's kind of trying to juggle everything at the same time, it's your first baby as well. And you're thinking you might lose her as well. I just don't know how you... What was going through your mind at the time?
It was really scary. I mean, we hadn't been together for that long, and so the idea that we would have had this whirlwind romance, perfect start to family life, and then it all to fall apart was really tough. And we were both lucky. We've got really supportive families. Claire's sister is a GP. She was there helping us out. My brother, although he works late night shifts, was coming down to the the hospital rather, and helping us out. So we were really lucky to have that.
So fortunately, you get through the worst of it, Claire, and you start sort of improving and stabilising. And then what was that first night you were able to have with Rafa where he wasn't being taken away to ITU, wasn't being put in, but he just could be with you? What was that like? It
was heaven. So I was in a hospital which overlooks the House of Commons. Yeah. And so I remember there was a sunrise, you could see the London Eye was all lit up, and it was the first night that I was able to hold him and be with him. There was this wonderful nurse called Debbie who helped me through it because my hands were still quite swollen, I was still quite clumsy, and it was just the best sleepless night of my life.
I was going to say, I bet you didn't sleep at all. You just watched him, didn't you?
I didn't. I was like a stalker. I was just staring at him and then waiting for him to wake up. But it was absolute heaven.
And how's Rafa doing now? And how are you doing now? Is everything all good?
He is gorgeous. So he's 10 months, he's got 2 teeth, he's got very sticky hands. He's actually just standing and wobbling a lot at the moment, but he's brilliant. And yes, I'm really pleased to say it's a very happy ending. We are all well.
Which is great to hear. And I think you've said you saw the NHS at its best and worst through that process. Now, you're frontline politics as well, right, in the shadow cabinet, so you can understand the importance of our NHS and it getting the resources that it needs. What was your experience, do you think?
Well, I mean, firstly, the doctors and nurses. If I hadn't have had this brilliant expert doctors and nurses, I'd be dead. My baby might be dead. So without them, we might not be here. That was the absolute best of it. I think for us, sometimes the bureaucracy was very difficult. It was very hard for me to see Rafa for those first couple of weeks of his life. And I didn't know how much time I was going to get with him. It might be the only time that I got to be a mother. And that was quite a battle. And I think that that system is sometimes not as humane and compassionate as it can be. It's not a particular individual's fault. It's just the way the system is. But ultimately, the thing that I feel the most is just gratitude. Because it could have very easily gone another way for us.
When our system works, it works brilliantly, doesn't it?
Unquestionably.
Absolutely.
Well, look, we're thrilled that you could come in and share the story, and it's got such a happy ending as well, and you're going to carry on having a wonderful life together as a family. Thank you for coming in and being part of the show today.
If you've been affected by Claire's story, there's information and helplines on
our website. Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.